welcome to the 25th Expectations of Christmas for our friends at Tender Mercies. If you go outside our back door of the theater, you can actually stretch your arms wide enough. You can connect our buildings with yourself. So we feel connecting every year to celebrate and raise some money for Tender Mercies is the neighborly thing to do. A quick story. For those of you that haven't been here before, our relationship with Tender Mercies started in a very loving way. Our beloved founder, Ruth Sawyer, was, as usual, unloading things in our lobby to help us with the show and accidentally left her purse hanging on the outside doorknob of the Ensemble Theatre back in 1996. After a couple hours, she noticed it was gone, and just as she was about to call her husband and say, "Oh, I left my purse out there," the doorbell rang. And a wonderful woman from Tender Mercies came with another wonderful person from Tender Mercies who was a resident there, who had seen the purse and realized it was in the wrong place. So the Tender Mercies resident turned it into the Tender Mercies desk, the desk person, and they started to go through the neighborhood looking to try to find its owner. So not a penny was lost. The owner was found, and a relationship began, a relationship that allowed us to know more about the wonderful work they were doing. And coincidentally, both Tender Mercies and Ensemble Theatre are celebrating our 35th anniversaries this year. So tonight is about celebrating the neighborhood, celebrating good friends, celebrating the fact that in the midst of a terrible 2020, there is always hope. And the people you are about to see tonight are donating their time and their talents to create this little holiday greeting and a very special message of love and celebration for our friends at Tender Mercies. I hope you will enjoy what David Kaiser and I put together. And the very best is the very special song he wrote, which is still kind of the greatest Christmas gift I have ever received. You'll hear it tonight. Thanks for being with us, and donate if you can, all to Tender Mercies.
Did you know the most popular of all treats, the candy cane, originated from the staff carried by St. Nicholas and by shepherds?
That Christmas cards were first introduced in 1843 by the same man who designed the very first postage stamp. The first card showed 3 generations of a family drinking wine. By 1880, the custom was widespread in England, and it is believed that Annie Oakley was the first person in America to send a Christmas card.
That St. Francis of Assisi designed the first creche, a display of a stable with figures representing the birth of Christ, to help his congregation more fully understand the Christmas story. Most of his parish were poor and unable to read, and this unconventional custom soon spread throughout the world.
The poinsettias are native to Mexico and became popular at Christmas time because of their red and green color. It was Dr. Joel Poinsettia, the first ambassador to Mexico, who first brought the flower to America.
The fruitcake was the original dessert at the English Feast of Twelfth Night. Somehow it's lasted, and it's believed that some of those original cakes are still being given as Christmas gifts this year.
That mistletoe was believed to have magical powers because it was one of the few plants to bear fruit in the winter. It was believed that it could ward off witches and evil spirits.
That the song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was based on a story written for Montgomery Ward and Company in 1939. By 1950, it had sold over 1 million copies, and today has sold over 30 million. It is the second only to Irving Berlin's White Christmas, which is the best-selling Christmas record of all time.
Hello there, Merry Christmas, how have you been? Gee, it's so good to talk to you again. It's been a long time, and it's clear why you've crossed my mind. I guess it's just to wish you a Merry Christmas. My best friend's having a party, and everybody's going. I know it's gonna be a lot of fun. Oh, by the way, it's snowing. It's been a long time. I still can't figure out why you crossed my mind. I guess it's just to say, gee whiz, it's Christmas. the memory of your smiling face. So I had to call you up and say, gee whiz, it's Christmas. So don't forget the party that we're throwing. The warm fire from the fireplace will be glowing. It's been a long, long time. I still can't figure out why you crossed my mind. I guess it's just to say, gee whiz, it's Christmas. I'm wishing you a have a very Merry Christmas. Gee whiz, have a very Merry Christmas.
Hi, Lynn, and all of our friends and neighbors at Ensemble Theatre. Russell Winters here, CEO of Tender Mercies. We're amazed and overjoyed that we can still come together this year for expectations of Christmas. Thank you for bringing us together and for welcoming Tender Mercies. For 35 years, both Tender Mercies and Ensemble Theatre have been working toward creating a more just, equitable, sustainable community where all are welcome and all are celebrated. Tender Mercy's success would not be possible without your support and your commitment to being such an awesome neighbor. Thank you. 2020 has been a challenge to say the least. And while our world continues to change, the demand for Tender Mercy's work remains the same and has only increased. Together we're engaged in truly transformative work. Our mission at Tender Mercies is to transform the lives of homeless adults with mental illness by providing security, dignity, and community in a place they call home. We accomplish all this by providing housing and holistic support services in 6 buildings in Over the Rhine and the West End. On any given night, 199 men and women call Tender Mercies home. Every year, I'm personally humbled by the willingness of Ensemble Theatre's incredibly talented actors to share their gifts on a night when the stage is typically dark. This year, we're even more honored. In the pandemic, so many are struggling, having to avoid large family gatherings and not being able to see loved ones who are more vulnerable. For those without a home, these challenges are even greater. But together, we are changing lives and we're breaking the cycle of homelessness. Thank you, Ensemble Theatre, for bringing us together tonight for this joyous celebration of the season, and thank you for your generous support. Merry Christmas.
Christmas time is here, happiness and cheer, joy for all that children call their favorite time of year. Snowflakes in the air, carols in the square, olden times and ancient rhymes of love and dreams to share. Sleigh bells in the air, beauty everywhere, Yuletide by the fireside, and joyful memories there. Christmas time is here, we'll be drawing near. Oh, that we could always see such spirit through the year. Happy holidays from all of us here at ETC.
A candle placed in the window was an old Irish custom. The candle would be placed and lit at twilight on Christmas Eve as a guide for Mary and Joseph to find their way. Join us now for Echoes and Tales of Christmas, and hear how 5 weary travelers find their own way home.
As Michael's skilled fingers tied the wide red ribbon into a perfect bow, he found himself wrapped in memories of a past Christmas Eve, his first Christmas with Joy, his wife. He had struggled to tie a similar bow around the collar of a similar tiny red Cocker Spaniel puppy. Michael met Joy at a gallery opening where Michael, an artist, had his works on display, and Joy had been hired to cast the performance artists, which added great life to the evening. Joy was the missing color on his palette. They spent their honeymoon in their small candlelit apartment watching movies while mixing popcorn and champagne. Michael laughed out loud when Joy insisted on watching Lady and the Tramp. It was her favorite movie of all time, the definitive movie of unconditional love, she had called it. So, it seemed that a puppy for their first Christmas was an obvious choice. It had been the perfect gift, the perfect puppy, the most perfect Christmas Eve of his life. Now, here he was, several litters of puppies later, getting ready to take his little bundle to her new owner and meet Joy at the airport. Joy spent half of her time in New York now. They had been in complete agreement about her taking the offer when it came. Her career needed room to grow, and New York offered that. It also offered enough money to allow them to live a little more comfortably while Michael pursued his art. It seemed a good, solid plan. Now, he was not so sure. As he placed the little puppy in the case, Lady came over and gave him a brief, sad lick. Michael turned on the outside lights with a flick of a switch. He wanted the white twinkling lights to be illuminated to help welcome Joy home. Joy's flight was running late, but Michael decided to head out anyway. If all went well, he could meet Joy and at least show her the pup before he handed her over to her new owner. He flipped on the radio and counted how many puppies had been placed from Lady over the years. 4 in the first, 3 in the second, now 4 again this time. 11 times 200. Lady's making more than me, he explained to his tiny companion. Michael and Joy agreed that the money they received from Lady's puppies would be used to prepare the nursery. They had planned to start a family, but with her working away so much of the time and his moods going from bad to worse, the timing just didn't seem right. He wondered what they would buy for the little yellow room with the money from this litter. He wondered if it would ever be anything more than a little yellow room. He wondered as his windshield wipers kept time to the soft refrains of "Hark the herald angels sing," echoing softly through the side door speakers.
Tick, tick, tick. Again, that odd little noise. Janet's ears had lost none of their keen ability. On this Christmas Eve, Janet wondered if these keen senses were really a gift. She tilted her head back against the soft cushioned chair to toss off the air of self-pity that had settled upon her like a light snowfall. The sitting room of the condo complex where she now sat was lovely, complete with a crackling fire. Janet had friends, was healthy and self-efficient, so why tonight could she only think about Patrick? Patrick had been her middle child, a boy who was born in the heart of a storm and rode the thunder most of his short life. Patrick had lived the last few years of his life with Sue Lee, an exchange student from Beijing who he met during his 2-month college career. Soon, Patrick and Sue Lee were delivering a baby boy at home. Clack, tick, tack. There was that irritating little noise again. That increased Janet's wariness. With the sole exception of Patrick's death, she had always been aware when something was coming, and tonight, something was on the air, moving toward her.
Ho, 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 indeed, Joy thought as she dropped into the aisle seat. Completely out of breath, she was tired to the bone. As the engines began to roar, she pulled at her neck scarf and unbuttoned her coat. She kicked at the Bloomingdale's bag stuffed under her seat to make sure it was clear of the path. She didn't really care if it cleared the path, but she wanted to avoid any stewardess talking to her. She did not want to talk to anyone. Her days were filled with chatter and her mind filled with names, ideas, roles, and numbers. Now she was simply numb. She glanced at the seat next to her. Good, an older man already asleep. Good for him and good for me, she thought. No chatty Cathy doll to deal with. Sleep, fellow, sleep all the way to Ohio. Joy rubbed her face almost in reproach. This was not like her. She had always loved meeting people. It's just that her job was now to meet people, and she relished the option of solitude for the flight home. Closing her eyes, she replayed the day in her head. Trying to find actors on Christmas Eve day was a trick. Then trying to get the director to decide and offers made before every agent in New York left for Florida was another challenge. All finished by 3:30, it left her 20 minutes in Bloomingdale's to grab at the near-empty display racks and run for the bus to LaGuardia. Opening her eyes, she tried to take a deep breath. She inhaled the stale airplane air and sensed the sound of the peanut cart heading up the aisle. Who in the world picked the fabric for the airplane seats? Was some subliminal message imprinted in the orange and yellow swirls? Did some airline officer have a son-in-law in the hideous fabric business? She leaned back and redecorated the plane in her mind. What a masterpiece Michael could create inside this tin crate. He would choose fabrics of blue and gold and edge the armrests with a pattern of green. The sterile ceiling would be transformed into soft clouds of yellow, just like the baby's room. A sharp kick of icy pain jarred through her stomach. The baby's room, she said softly out loud. Michael had encouraged her to take the job. He believed in her. She knew that, and she believed in him. Michael's painting was pure inspiration when he got out of his own way and allowed the spirit inside to take over. Night after night, she'd fall asleep next to him as he painted his bold canvases. Those nights seemed like a long time ago now, and as distant as the receding lights of the city falling into the night sky.
Another airplane seat was occupied by thoughts that overflowed into the aisle along with a trailing red silk scarf. As Jade pulled the scarf out of the way of the approaching refreshment cart, he smiled. The beautiful scarf was so smooth in his hand, wonderfully cool in such a cramped small space that just a touch of it renewed Jade's resolve. Ohio. What was Ohio going to be like? He had not been in Ohio for 17 years. As Jade ordered an orange juice and took the tiny candy cane treat that had been handed to him by the weary stewardess, he rejoiced in his life. He had been raised on the Upper East Side of Manhattan, a place where most people could only dream of visiting. He attended a remarkable school which encouraged individuality, and there he found his acting ability emerge along his nearly 6-foot frame and his soft black eyes. His parents had taken him to every theater event imaginable, even ones at which they cringed or fell asleep. It broke Jade's heart to think of waking up hundreds of miles away from them. It'll be the first Christmas morning since he was 4 that he had not been home. But, in fact, he was heading home, back to Ohio, to see where it all began, and back to a woman he barely could recall. This was his journey. Not unlike James Joyce or Tennessee Williams, 2 great heroes of his. Jade felt the need to complete the past before he would feel comfortable in the future. And the future was bright. The audition that afternoon had gone well. The offer to play a small role in his first feature was quite a Christmas present. This red silk scarf was another worth cherishing. It had arrived this afternoon, a small package just like the one he had received every other Christmas Eve afternoon for his entire life. A plain brown package. No card will be enclosed, no return address, only an Ohio postmark and nothing more. Odd as it sounds, those strange, mysterious packages always held something that connected with Jade's current life. He remembered the tiny plastic tool set when he was 8 and determined to be an architect like his dad. The backpack he used at summer camp when he was 12. The book of Shakespearean plays, leather bound, which had arrived 2 weeks prior to his classical audition for American Academy of Dramatic Arts. Today, the red scarf had connected perfectly with the swashbuckling pirate's role he had auditioned for the day. Call it suspicion or intervention, it had helped him land the role. Of that he was certain. But no present had ever so changed his life as the one which he had received on his 3rd Christmas Eve, his last in Ohio. Time to return, repay, relive, remember.
I've got to get out of here. I simply have to get out of here, he repeated over and over in his mind like a mantra. When the lights went out, the place got cold and quiet. The fish weren't talking. Fish rarely did. He had no one to play with, no one to bark at, and besides, it was Christmas. Although he was only 2 months old, he wasn't born yesterday. He knew about Christmas. Santa in a cart, pulled by very large dogs flying through the air. Maybe he would grow up to be one of those large flying dogs. After all, that's why he was still at the pet store. Oh my, he would hear people say while rubbing his tummy or his ears. He's likely to be a big boy, isn't he? And then they would put him back in his cage. What's wrong with being a big boy? That's what I want to know. So what if I'm not a pup with papers? Not a mistake, like they say. The small curly gray dog whined in spite of himself. He had been born of a pedigree blonde cocker who had a brief encounter with a standard gray poodle. His mother had loved him. He remembered her loving warmth very well. Maybe if he got out of here, he could find her. Or find Santa. Find someone to spend Christmas with. Other than these silent fish. He'd been given the breakout a lot of thought. He'd studied how the cage latch worked. One little reach with the paw, flick it back, a little push. Bingo! He was out! 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 Oh, felt good to stretch his legs, so he did a lap around the front counter just for the fun of it. He took the corner a little too fast and his feet went sliding out from under him and he landed near the cat food display. Picking himself up on all fours, he headed for the mesh gate, which separated the pet store from the mall. It was an easy fit through the gate, and he stood still and sniffed for a whiff of cold air. He found it. He laughed one of those silent laughs dogs laugh, and followed his nose to the source of the breeze. He was soon on the loading dock. There was a big red door right in front of him that was opening. He made a mad dash, but it closed right in his face. He would have to wait. He cuddled up next to a discarded Christmas tree and waited. Soon, a fat fellow in blue overalls appeared at the doorway. The size was right for Santa, but the suit color was wrong. Santa wore red. He would wait for the man in red. As the man in blue walked through the door, the little gray dog slipped out behind him, out into the cold night, out into the darkness, out in search for a way to celebrate Christmas. His first Christmas. Surely it would be wonderful.
As the plane touched down, Joy touched her stomach. Perhaps it was just the flight that had increased the butterflies. Perhaps it was the anticipation of seeing Michael and her fear that it would be awkward. The coming and going had taken its toll, to be certain, and of all nights, tonight she wanted them to be together, to be of one mind and one heart. She hadn't decided if she should tell him about the baby. After all, it was not certain. She had bought the home pregnancy test, but decided to wait until she was home to take it. Should she even say anything until she was certain? It would turn the world upside down if she were pregnant. Would he want her to quit and move home? Would he consider moving to New York? So many questions left to be answered and so many worries walking off the plane with her to meet Michael. On top of it all, her bag was stuck. She tried pulling it out, pushing and re-pulling. It had somehow attached itself to the underside of the seat. Just as she was about to lose patience, a hand tapped her on the back. She looked up into familiar eyes.
Here, let me help you. And Jade bent down and pulled the bag free. As she rose to take the bag and thank him, he recognized her as Joy Pace, the casting director he had auditioned for earlier that day. Miss Pace, it's Jade Franklin.
Of course, Jade. Thanks for the help. And congratulations on landing the role.
You helped me a great deal. I'm the one who's grateful after you. Jade allowed Joy to get out of her seat and proceed before him down the aisle. As they exited the plane,
Joy asked, "What brings you to Cincinnati?"
Family I haven't seen in a long time. How about you?
This is home. Just then she spotted Michael's red fleece coat in the crowd and rushed towards him. The embrace was strong and warm, and they breathed a mutual sigh of relief. Yes, it would be all right. Love knows in an instant when all is well, and all would be well tonight.
Jade paused for a moment until their embrace ended before offering, "Merry Christmas, Joy."
And Merry Christmas to you, Jade. Oh, this is my husband, Michael.
Pleased to meet you.
Michael Pace? Jade Franklin. You wouldn't happen to have a puppy with you?
Jade, what a coincidence. I didn't expect you until the 9:45 flight arriving from JFK.
I know, but I managed to catch the earlier flight out of LaGuardia. Where is she?
The men turned to see Joy holding the puppy close to her chest.
Michael offered Jade a ride to his destination, explaining that finding a cab in Cincinnati on Christmas Eve was not an easy task. And it would give Joy more time with the little pup before having to say goodbye.
There were immediately a few things that the little gray dog had not counted on. To begin with, the ground was covered with white stuff. Sort of looked like the stuff in the bottom of the hamster cages. This white stuff was everywhere. It hurt his paws. It was very cold, but it burned his feet at the same time. He wasn't sure what it was, but he was sure that he didn't like it. There was a whole lot of nothing out here. No other dogs, no small dishes with crunchy food, no water. He was getting tired and hungry, but he kept heading towards the twinkling lights just at the top of the hill in front of him. He would just keep going as fast as his little paws could take him. He was on a mission to find Christmas, and he was sure he was headed in the right direction.
Janet had considered heading back to her condo, but her thoughts weighed heavily upon her and kept her in her seat. The crackling fire offered little warmth. It had been a fire which had killed Patrick and Sue Lee. A space heater set too close to the bed. That matchbox of a house went up too fast for them to get out or help to get in. Janet would have surely lost her mind with bitterness and grief had it not been for the boy. Miraculously, he had had a fever, and Janet had taken the child home to spend the night. He had been spared the blaze. His life was saved, but yet she lost him still. The priest had suggested allowing him to be adopted. Money was tight, and Janet was 60 years old at the time. The priest forced Janet to consider the life the child could have if he were placed with a loving young couple who could care for him and give him everything she could not. He'd been 3 years old that Christmas Eve when she handed him to the social worker. His dark, sad eyes staring back at her, the small stuffed dog under his arm. A little puppy to keep you company, to remind you, I will always be with you. I will always love you. Although she knew he couldn't understand, she said it out loud anyway. Again, she heard the ticking. It was closer now, and it startled her back to the present. She dried her eyes, rose from the chair, and just as she set out to investigate, the puppy ran into the room. The surprise sat her back in her own chair, and she recognized the tick-tap, tap, tapping sound as the sound of tiny paws on hardwood floors. "And where did you come from?" she asked as she picked up the tiny bundle with the bright red bow.
For me,
Came an answer at the doorway, and she looked up into the soft, dark eyes of a smiling young man. "Jade," she breathed.
Merry Christmas, Grandma, he simply replied.
He was at the top of the hill now. His little legs were giving out. He had tried to sit down, but the cold had cut through his thin coat. Just keep going, he thought, and he barked to affirm it. His bark turned into a puff of white, and it scared him for a moment. He had no idea he could do that, so he did it again just for good measure. Ah, there were the twinkling lights, white and sparkly. And look, there was a long strip of black without any white on it, leading right up to a door. Great, he thought as he scampered upon it. No white stuff to hurt my feet. Flash! There came a huge light out of nowhere and a terrible squealing sound. He stopped and stood instantly still as he had ever been in his short life. Too scared to move, too cold to think. Voices broke the air.
Is it all right? What is it?
It's a pup. He looks okay.
A figure approached and bent down to look at him square in the eye. It was a good face, he thought, but it was too dark to see clearly. Then he saw the red arms reaching to lift him up, and he knew. Santa! I made it! As he was lifted up from the cold and snuggled down into the soft red coat, he heard Santa say,
"Merry Christmas, little guy. Welcome home."
If we make it through December, everything's gonna be alright, I know. It's the coldest time of winter, and I shiver when I see the falling snow. If we make it through December, got plans to be in a warmer town come summertime. Maybe even California. If we make it through December, we'll be fine. Got laid off down at the factory, and their timing's not the greatest in the world. Heaven knows I've been working hard. Wanted Christmas to be right for Mama's girl. I don't mean to hate December. It's meant to be the happy time of year. But my little girl don't understand why Mama can't afford no Christmas here. If we make it through December, everything's gonna be alright, I know. It's the coldest time of winter, and I shiver when I see the falling snow. If we make it through December, got plans to be in a warmer town come summertime.
It was a long time ago, for it was 1877 that Fannie Mae, oh, a dear little girl with brown face and long, silky braids of hair, of which she was very proud of when it was properly beribboned, lived on York Street in the city of Louisville, Kentucky. In addition to her beautiful hair, Fannie Mae had other attractions. She had bright, black eyes that seemed to ever hold a smile lurking in their depths, and a disposition that made her loved from one end of the street in which she lived to the other. Fannie Mae's father worked across the street in the big tobacco factory on the corner. Fannie Mae's mother, a fair little woman of frail physique, worked for a kind white family when she was able. Living was very high in this beautiful southern city, and when Fannie Mae's father had paid the exorbitant rent demanded by his white landlord for their two-room home, bought wood, and the cheapest kind of clothing, there was very little left of the $7.50 pay that it received each week. Then, too, as her father would probably tell you himself, he was a typical Kentuckian of the day, and a laboring man must have his morning toddy. And the little store on the corner with its bar in the rear sometimes got a third of his week's pay. So you see, when Fannie Mae's mother was ailing, as she had been now for several weeks, and could not go to work for her white folks, oh, it looked mighty, mighty slim for Christmas doings at Fannie Mae's humble little home. And since there were just two things out of all the things in the whole round world that Fannie Mae had set her heart on, it did seem as if a little girl who didn't act greedy and asked for a lot of things like Maybelle and Prudy Ann, two of her little friends, might have two of those things. I just wish Santa Claus would bring me just two things out of all the millions of things he's got in his sleigh, she sighed. What's that, Fannie Mae, said her father, who was very fond of his little girl. I want a great big doll that can shut its eyes and go to sleep when I rock it and say, Mama, when you squeeze it. And then I want a great big cradle bed to put it to sleep in. Me and Prudy Ann and Maybelle saw one in the store. Oh, it was just beautiful. If I had a big doll in bed, I wouldn't want another thing. All the other children get something to play with but me. I ain't got no little brothers and sisters, not nothing at all. Fannie Mae's father's face grew long. Oh, don't look for nothing this Christmas, 'cause I done heard Santa Claus wouldn't be able to get around to our place at all, 'cause times are so hard. Fannie Mae's bright eyes filled with tears. And I ain't gonna get nothing at all, she said. How come he ain't coming here this Christmas, He never missed before. Time's too hard and Mama's sick. Fannie Mae's mother, who was in bed, roused right up. She always did if there was anything the matter with Fannie Mae. Mothers are like that, you know. Stop crying, mother's child, she said. Indeed, you will have something for Christmas. Soon as I feel the least bit better, I'll begin right away making some new Christmas clothes for Ella Virginia. Fannie Mae's most cherished possession was a big rag doll, made by her mother out of flour sacking and stuffed with bran from a neighboring lumber yard. Ella Virginia had been Fannie Mae's pride since she was 5. She shared all of her games of play hour and was hugged close to her bosom when Fannie Mae went to sleep. But constant wear with an active little mistress like Fannie Mae had reduced Ella Virginia to a mere wreck of her former self. Ella Virginia's best days were past. She could still be loved and played with along with at home, but out, never. Still, it would not be fair to Ella Virginia to refuse new clothes for her. Her mother could make such a cunning little jacker and such pretty dresses for Ella Virginia, and she worked real buttons in her clothes, and Fannie Mae could button them just as she did her own clothing. Oh, she assented tearfully. and went about her dishes as cheerfully as she could. But her little heart was sad. Oh, so sad, because of all the little girls in her street, she would have no visit from Santa Claus. When Fannie Mae's last dish was washed and placed upon the cupboard shelves, and she had read a chapter in the New Testament, with her father she sat in her own little red rocker that her father's kind, dark hands had made for her on her last birthday, and looked in the big fireplace and imagined how wonderful it would be on Christmas Eve. Oh, if she could hang her stocking up just as she did last Christmas, and wake up and find it all crammed to the toe with good things, candy and nuts, and a big yellow orange from faraway Florida or California, and a big doll, and sure enough cradle bed big enough to put her to sleep in. But the little eyes had closed, for the Sandman had managed to throw a good big handful of sand in them, I suppose. And Fannie Mae tumbled out of the little red rocker to the floor, and her father picked her up and kissed her and put her to bed. When he was through, Fannie Mae's mother was crying, for she had been watching Fannie Mae, and she knew what she was thinking about, for she knew what she thought about at Christmas time when she was like Fannie Mae, and she knew that it breaks a child's heart when she is told to expect nothing at Christmas. Billy, Fannie Mae's so little, she don't know anything about hard times. She must have a Christmas. Oh, and here I am sick and can't get out to work. Well, don't worry. She'll have some Christmas if I have to sit up every night for a month. I'm going to make her a doll cradle bed, big enough for a sure enough baby, just as she is fretting about. I got some nice pine that will be just the thing, and you can make the mattress. Oh, and I can make the little sheets and pillowcases and tack of comfort. I'm so glad you thought of such a beautiful thing to do. I know it will be just fine because you made Fannie Mae's little rocker so nice. Fannie Mae's father, his face all smiles. Well, you know Granny Hope's a powerful hand for molasses cookies and molasses candy. And we got plenty of sugar laid by, and if I can get a hold of a few walnuts for the candy, I guess Fannie Mae will feel pretty good after all. Except for the doll. And I don't see how we can manage that unless one drops down from the sky somewhere. Like the babe of Bethlehem, sighed her mother. Well, I'll do all I can to make Ella Virginia presentable. Night after night found Fannie Mae's father sitting up after a hard day's work at the factory, working on the cradle bed. He had to hide it at Granny Hope's the next door to keep Fannie Mae from knowing. At last it was finished, and when he brought it home after Fannie Mae was asleep, Fannie Mae's mother was too happy for anything. Oh, how could you make such a beautiful, beautiful bed all by yourself, she said. For the cradle bed was wonderfully carved with the figure of an angel at the bead, and it had nice even slats and rockers just like a true bed. It big enough for a ready baby for sure, said her mother. Then they began to plan about the cookies and the candies. Yes, Granny Hope would make them. Fannie Mae knew nothing of these delightful doings, but she was more cheerful than she had been, for she was busy making presents for others. You remember I told you that everybody liked Fannie Mae because of her pleasant disposition. On Christmas Eve, Fannie Mae found that Mama was not well enough to be disturbed, and that she was to sleep next door at Granny Hope's. And her father added that Granny said she had better hang up her stocking, for she had heard that Santa Claus might come after all. Fannie Mae didn't really mind staying with Granny, but she would rather stayed at home on this particular night. Over at Granny Hope's, she snuggled under the warm Irish chain quilt and peeked out every little while to see if she could see any sign of Santa Claus. But alas, the Sandman got her. And it was bright day when she heard Granny stirring, and jumped out of bed, cried quickly, "Christmas gift, Granny! Christmas gift!" "Oh, you caught me, did you little booger?" said Granny, and gave her a big red apple. And then Fanny rushed to the fireplace, where there was the stocking she had hung up the night before, fat and mysterious looking. In it, she found molasses cookies, candies, and a gingerbread man. Fannie Mae rushed into her clothes and hurried over home. But what was that standing in the middle of the kitchen floor? A cradle bed, the prettiest you ever saw. Big enough for Ella Virginia or a live baby, and it had a mattress and pillows and the daintiest comforter imaginable. "Oh, Papa! Oh, Mama!" she cried, rushing into the other room. But she stopped still, for her mother was taking medicine from a glass her father held, and Granny, who had come in another way, was holding something in her arms. Something that looked like a doll. Something tiny and brown and wrinkled, but oh so very dear. Something that you loved the very minute you laid eyes on it and wanted to hold it in your arms. "Oh, Mama, it isn't a live baby, is it?" cried the happy child, as Granny laid it in her arms for a wee moment. "Yes, it is your Christmas gift, your own dear little baby brother. Will you let him lie in your cradle bed when he is sleepy?" "Oh, Mama. Oh, Daddy," cried Fannie Mae. "I thought I wasn't going to have any Christmas at all. And it is the best Christmas in the whole world, isn't it? Didn't God give us a good Christmas this time?"
Everybody, sing along on this one. Here's one for the tenors to listen to. You're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You really are a heel. You're as cuddly as a cactus. You're as charming as an eel, Mr. Grinch. You're a bad banana with a greasy black peel.
You're a monster, Mr. Grinch. Your heart's an empty hole. Your brain is full of spiders. You have garlic in your soul, Mr. Grinch. I wouldn't touch you with a 39.5-foot pole. Ah, yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're a vile one, Mr. Grinch. You got termites in your smile. You have all the tender sweetness of a seasick crocodile, Mr. Grinch. Given the choice between the two of you, I'd pick the seasick crocodile.
You're a rotter, Mr. Grinch. You're the king of sinful socks. Your heart's a dead tomato splotched with moldy purple spots, Mr. Grinch. Your soul is an appalling dump heap overflowing with the most disgraceful assortment of rubbish imaginable, mangled up and tangled up knots.
You nauseate me, Mr. Grinch, with a super nasty nos. You're a dirty, crooked jockey, and you drive a crooked hoss, Mr. Grinch. You're a double-decker toadstool and sauerkraut sandwich with arsenic sauce.
You're a foul one, Mr. Grinch. You're a nasty, wasty skunk. Your heart is full of unwashed socks. Your soul is full of gunk, Mr. Grinch. The three words that best describe you are as follows, and I quote: stink, stank, skunk.
Okay, that's right. You guessed it. We're angels. You know, it's very hard to keep a low profile these days with angels so in vogue.
True. Used to be we went unnoticed. Now there are TV shows and calendars.
And lapel pins and earrings.
And they all help a great deal in their way to spread the message of faith, but they really don't resemble us at all.
Well, now, Tori Wiggins, who used to play that angel in The Mountaintop, looks very much like the angel of Altos, but it's probably just a coincidence.
What is the first rule of angels?
Sorry, there are no coincidences.
That's right. Well, since you've recognized us, allow us to explain a little about what we do. I am the angel of returns.
And I am the angel of whispers. This afternoon, for example, I sat upon the shoulder of a little girl crying behind her new eyeglasses.
Yes, that part of the popular depiction of angels is true. We do enjoy sitting on shoulders.
We are smaller, of course, when we do this. And today, the shoulder I sat on was heaving up and down heavily with sadness. This little girl, Amy, had just gotten her first pair of glasses, and a second grade boy, being second grade boys, was being so unkind. So I whispered a little word about Santa himself wearing glasses. and that when the snowflakes stick to her glasses as she walked home from school, she could, for the first time, be able to see clearly how distinctly different each one was.
Yeah, in short, she whispered away tears, and I do much the same thing with returns. Everyone thinks of asking for things when they pray, asking for gifts. Yes, just as often we wish something which has been taken away would be returned. This could be as simple as a farthing or as complex as faith. You see.
I returned the lost kitten, Dickens, whose curiosity had taken him astray, which returns the smile to his owner's face and joy to both of their days.
I return the feeling of warmth to hearts who have long gone cold by returning to their hands another's who is frightened and needs a hand to hold.
I whisper to the fearful that faith can keep them strong. I whisper to the tired that their road is not so long.
I am the lost quarter you find at the bottom of your purse. I'm the speech that goes beautifully, though you hadn't had time to rehearse.
I am the softest whisper of sunlight just before the day is done.
I am the hope that lives on long after the ball game is won.
I am the thread of a whisper when heartstrings I need to mend.
I am the return address on a letter received from a long-lost friend.
I whisper the refrains of Christmas carols that then sound out so loud and clear.
I return the magical frost to the windows, which disappears the rest of the year.
Though insignificant my whispers may seem to be, a lifetime of little whispers stays with you for eternity.
And the whispers in the darkness, when all faith seems to be gone, returns in the form of hope, which encourages us to go on.
So never feel you are alone, for an angel like us is near.
We are whispering in the music and on the bells of Santa's reindeer.
Returning to you at this season, a faith you thought was gone, the innocent joy of childhood. May it last all year long.
A dad who's a million miles away. When he meets me, who knows what he'll see. But deep down, I know I shouldn't be afraid, 'cause he's bound to be a lot like me, and will make angels in the snow till the snow begins to blow. Then we'll run inside and start a tickle fight. And if it's too cold to sled, we'll eat gingerbread instead, and then cuddle till he tucks me in at night. Then we'll have our pictures taken for the Christmas cards we're making, him and me in suits of matching plaid. And when people see us walking, they'll be Google-eyed and gawking at Buddy and the world's greatest dad. Oh. We'll spend mornings holding hands and making plans on whether to play jacks or kick the can. Then for lunch a ginger snap, then a nap to fill the gap between building forts and playing Superman. And if his back gives him a spasm, well, every good dad has him, I'll bring him cocoa and a heating pad. It's a scene inside a snow globe, it's a very apropos globe, just Buddy and the world's greatest dad. We'll share a whole fruit cake slice by slice, making sure not one single crumb drops. And if I were to say I'm in a Christmas play, he wouldn't miss it for a million gumdrops. When I fall and scrape my knee, he'll kiss at me for me and make that boo-boo better in a jiff. And if I should get a cold, just allergies from mold, he'll presume tighten me with his own handkerchief. And if everything's turned gloomful, I'll know that there's a room full of hugs and jokes to make it seem less bad. I can't hide my admiration for that perfect combination, Buddy and the world's greatest dad. So I'm gonna try my best to be everything you'd expect of me. I promise that I won't stop until I'm done.
at you!
Look at you!
Oh, stop. I commandeered my 1-year-old's bedroom because it's the only place where I have a clean white wall.
I love that. I
Thank
love
you.
that. I
Yeah.
thought I'd feature my home goods blanket.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I know.
Maybe we can get a deal from them now.
Maybe a sponsorship, perhaps. I'll look into it.
It is so nice to see you. And hey, we got to do expectations.
We do. Thank goodness.
The best thing in the world.
Truly,
So
truly,
much joy.
truly. I know.
All right, are you
Let's
ready?
do this. I'm ready. I'm
let's
ready.
Do it. All right. So, Christmas time is about being together.
About surrounding yourself with the ones you love.
And those who hold a special place in your heart.
However, life has a tendency of setting us adrift on different adventures, especially this year.
And we can't always guarantee that we'll be with our families for the holidays.
But no matter where we're socially distancing,
whether we celebrate in the same room or via Zoom,
we carry the joy of our friends and loved ones in our hearts, transcending distance,
wrapping us in loving warmth,
rekindled by the spirit of Christmas.
Tonight,
with a little sense of humor,
and some reimagining of a non-traditional Christmas song, we
celebrate being
together. All right.
Wait, we usually do this as a clap routine.
Yeah, and I'm in Cincinnati and you're in New York. So I guess this means
we have to go all out.
Oh yeah. Are you ready, Maya?
Oh yeah, I'm ready. I know you belong to somebody new, but tonight you belong to me, just a little me. Although we're apart, you're a part of my heart, but tonight you belong to me, just a little me. Way down by the stream, how sweet it would seem once more just to dream in the moonlight, my honey, I know with the dawn that you will be gone, but tonight you belong to me, just a little me. I know with the dawn that you will be gone, but tonight you belong to me, just a little me.
Happy holidays!
Having been born into an interfaith family has made this time of year special indeed. I have so many fond memories of going to church, lining up to sit on Santa's knee, and gathering around the Christmas tree with my dad's side of the family, making ornaments, eating cookies, and celebrating my grandma's birthday, which just so happens to be on the 25th. On my mom's side of the family, we had our own gatherings, of course. Each night of Hanukkah, we would gather around a menorah, play dreidel, eat latkes, and celebrate the rededication, which, by the way, is the true meaning of the word Hanukkah, dedication. But why, you may ask? Good question. Well, A long time ago, the Greek king Antiochus outlawed Judaism and took over the Jewish temple, turning it into a place to worship Greek gods. A group called the Maccabees saw this injustice, rebelled, and regained control over the temple. They rededicated it to the Jewish faith. But, dun dun dun, in the midst of their rebuilding of the temple, they realized they only had enough oil to keep their Ner Tamid, the eternal light, burning for one day. Yet, somehow, the oil lasted miraculously 8 nights, until more oil could be found. The menorah is a candle holder, a symbol for the Ner Tamid. It holds 8 candles, one for each night the miracle lasted. The 9th candle, the shamus, we use as a helper candle to help light the other candles. A dreidel is a small top we use to play a game to get chocolate coins called gelt. On each side of the dreidel are 4 Hebrew letters that stand for the phrase Nes Gadol Hayasham, or a great miracle happened there. Well, my grandma made the best mashed potatoes for Christmas dinner. My papa made the most delicious potato latkes, deep fried in oil. Forgive the history lesson, please. It's just that miracles and traditions are hard to explain. Their randomness ever harder. What has become clear over the years is that while Hanukkah can't hold a candle to Christmas in its religious importance per se, both faiths celebrate one important thing in common: the celebration of light. The lights of the menorah remind us of the miracle that happened oh so long ago. So long ago, at least from what I remember from church, the wise men followed the light of a star to find the Christmas child, your miracle, your light of the world. It's fun to think, when all is said and done, we all wise men and Maccabees and the friends and loved ones in between are all seeking that light, that peace, that hope. Within all hearts this time of year, no matter the circumstances of your birth, beats the same prayer to be kept alive for the future, gratitude for being sustained in our past, and celebration for being brought to this beautiful season now. As I said before, miracles are hard to explain, so why not let us simply rejoice in their very existence?
Forget your troubles.
Happy day.
Come on, get happy.
Are here again.
You
The skies above are clear again.
Shout hallelujah.
So let's tell the world.
And just get happy.
I'm here again.
We're heading
Happy days
to
are
the
here
promised
again.
land. The sun is shining.
Together.
Come on, get happy.
Shout it loud.
There's waiting to take your hand.
Can't doubt it now.
Shout hallelujah.
So let's sing a song.
And just get happy.
I'm here again.
We're heading
Happy days
to the
are here
promised
again.
We're heading across the river. Soon your cares will all be gone.
There'll be no more from now on.
From now on, forget your troubles and just get happy. You better stay so your
Above are
cares will
clear again.
shout hallelujah.
So let's tell the
And just get
world.
happy.
I'm here again.
Happy times, happy nights, happy days are here again.
Thanks for joining us and being with us this evening. You're about to hear a familiar song, but now it has a different message perhaps for you when you hear it the next time on the radio or in a few moments. That very wonderful, wonderful woman we talked about earlier in this broadcast, Ruth Sawyer, loved Christmas. When it was opening night, it wasn't opening night, it was Merry Christmas. It wasn't your birthday, it was Merry Christmas. It wasn't first rehearsal, it was Merry Christmas. She kept that spirit alive all year long, all of her life, and inspired all of us with that same love for the miracles that could happen only at this time of the year. Her song, "We Need a Little Christmas Right This Very Moment," was a favorite because she performed it in a production of Mame that she appeared in. So tonight, the fabulous Carrs, Lauren, Aaron, and Michael Carr, will perform Ruth's very favorite song, and a very special song for ETC, and a song we all need right this very moment.
Haul out the holly, put up the tree before my spirit falls again. Fill up the stocking, I may be rushing things, but deck the halls again now.
For we need a little Christmas right this very minute. Candles in the window, carols at the spinet. Yes, we need a little Christmas right this very minute.
It hasn't snowed a single flurry, but Santa dear, we're in a hurry.
Climb down the chimney, turn on the brightest strings of lights I've ever seen. Slice up the fruitcake, it's time we hung some tinsel on that evergreen bough.
For I've grown a little leaner, grown a little colder, grown a little sadder, grown a little older, and I need a little angel sitting on my shoulder. Need a little Christmas now. For we need a little music, need a little laughter, need a little singing, ringing in the rafter. Yes, we need a little snappy, happy ever after. Need a little Christmas now.
Miracles, merriment, and magic were all in short supply on December 20th. As she left the office, the lull of the outside world settled upon her, as did the rain. Rain, not snow. Figures. She shrugged and pulled up the collar of her sensible gray. She did, however, keep her umbrella tucked inside her black tote bag. I'll take a walk on the wild side, just this once, she smiled weakly to herself. The walk to her car was 8 short blocks. On this first block, she passed the cafeteria where she and her husband had lunch earlier that day. It was their standing Monday date, and it was pleasant enough. They made last-minute gift lists over hot soup and bread. Everything was fine, but something she caught in his eyes had bothered her all afternoon. As he looked across the table at her, she could feel his eyes seeking out her flaws, not her facets. It was more than vanity. It had been a long time since his eyes had lit up when she walked into a room. She shook her head to rid herself of these nagging thoughts. Forget it. Grow up. It's okay. Everything's okay. Be content. But contentment had never been her goal. She liked to rock the boat, jump into the deep end. She wanted to make a difference. At present, she was making a nice wage in a nice job in a nice office. She stopped into a department store and hurried through her shopping. 3 gifts only tonight. 1 for her husband, 1 for her daughter, and 1 for herself. Her daughter and her husband would pay her back later. They didn't like to shop. She didn't want to go home and cook, so she grabbed a slice of pizza at the food court. The food court was jammed, big surprise. It was 7 o'clock on December 20th. The office workers had been unshackled from their computers and desks and were making a mad dash for fast food and some quick shopping. As she juggled the 3 large packages with her tray and her purse and her coat, she desperately sought a table. Nothing. Full everywhere. 2s and 4s at all tables, counters jammed with people standing on the ends to eat. She had to sit down. In a minute, everything would be in a pile on the floor with her pizza as the topping. in honor of the season. The cheese on top of her pizza congealed as it plummeted from tepid to frosty. She needed a seat. She stared at people, attempting to get them to move with her eyes. Her eyes scanned left and right and left again. And then at last, she spotted it. One seat at a table for two across from a large man. He was a heap of humanity in gray and beige, but she didn't care. It was a seat. She would sit and eat and then go home. "Is this seat taken?" she asked as she placed her packages under the chair and sat down. He just looked up and didn't answer. Fine, she thought. Fine. No need to chit-chat. She bit into the frosty pizza and took a sip of Coke and heard a voice say, "It's a shame about the sweater. You won't like it." "You're right," she responded without thinking, and then stopped mid-chew and turned towards the man. "Did you say something?" "Yes," he replied. "I said it's a shame about the sweater. The one you bought for your husband. You won't say so, but you won't like it." "How did you?" "Oh, I have a way with packages. Guess what's in them every time." She didn't have time to think about what was happening, the bizarre nature of the conversation, because immediately he said, "You're wishing now you had the soup. Much better choice, I'd say. Next time, dear, next time, get the soup." She simply stared at him, unable to respond. "Your daughter already has a turntable." "No, she doesn't," she managed. "Yes, the one in the corner basement closet from your youth. It's in perfect condition, just waiting for you." "Oh." It's tough to buy a gift for a teenager whose tastes change with the season, isn't it? "How do you..." "Don't trouble yourself with questions. Your pizza is already cold and the garage closes in 5 minutes. She chewed her food and nodded with the immediate belief of a child. "It's not your daughter who worries me, however. She'll find her way. What about your husband? Why a sweater?" "He no longer seems interested in anything. Now when he looks at me, now I know he sees the flaws and not the facets." "But you still must shine, my dear," he said gently. "You must shine in your own light." "My light is a little dim these days. I'm not sure I know myself anymore." "So that's why you bought yourself the blender. It's a terrible choice. You don't even like to cook." "It was on sale?" "You sell yourself short," he chuckled. His eyes were a translucent blue, his voice as gentle as the wind, his face indescribably peaceful. "Run along," he said. "You'll want to get your car out of the garage before Larry locks up. He's anxious to get home, so you better hurry." She reached down and picked up her packages and left the food court in a trance. She reached the doorway into the street and was catapulted through by hurried shoppers. She stood for a moment, pulled against the building, and took a deep breath. What had just happened? What was it about that man? How did he know? She suddenly felt that the bags which had been so heavy were now light. "Oh, he tricked me somehow and stole my presents," she thought, and without thinking, dropped to her knees and began to go through the bags. In the large bag where her husband's sweater should have been was now a small velvet box. She opened it, and a tiny diamond tie tack glistened. It was in the shape of a golf ball. A note, in her own hand no less, accompanied the gift. "When you wear this at the office, think about your joy-filled times on the greens. Let the sparkle remind you of my life." Facets, she thought.
Maybe he will again see my facets and not my flaws. Further in the bag, she found in place of the enormous turntable a single vinyl LP, Vivaldi's Four Seasons. A note in her own hand said, "As you change and grow with the seasons, let this beautiful music lead your way." Her daughter would love it. Of that she was certain. Finally, the huge white bag in which the blender had been placed was folded around a small leather book, a date book. She flipped through the pages and saw that on every Wednesday at lunchtime was penciled in lunch date. In the front of the date book was a simple inscription: "Of the 8,760 hours in the year, take 52 for yourself. Your lunches won't cost more than the blender, and the time you give yourself will be priceless. Merry Christmas. Love, Nick." As her tears hit the book, she quickly tried to brush them away, and as her hand touched the page, snowflakes took their place. She stood up, precious packages in hand, and the air about her filled with dancing snowflakes. "Merry Christmas," a stranger's voice whispered on the wind. "Merry Christmas," she tenderly replied.
Maybe it's much too early in the game. Oh, but I thought I'd ask you just the same. What are you doing? New Year's Eve. Wonder whose arms will hold you good and tight when it's exactly 12 o'clock at night, welcoming in the new year, New Year's Eve. Maybe I'm crazy to suppose I'd ever be the one you chose out of 1,000 invitations you receive. Oh, but in case I stand a little chance, here comes the jackpot question in advance. What are you doing? New Year's Eve. Oh, but in case I stand a little chance, here comes the jackpot question in advance. What are you doing? New Year's Eve. Me too.
The tradition of hanging Christmas stockings originated in 350 when St. Nicholas, a Russian bishop, came to the rescue of a nobleman who had lost his money in a bad business venture. The nobleman's 3 daughters had no dowry as a result and were therefore likely to go unmarried and face a life of possible prostitution. On 3 different occasions, Bishop Nicholas threw a bag of gold through their window to save them from such a destiny. On one occasion, the bag fell into one of the stockings left hanging to dry by the fire, and thus The custom began.
The shopping's finally over. The gifts are wrapped and ready. One more batch of cookies and I'll be done. The children are sleeping as the angels are keeping every item's checked except the most important one. If we want peace on earth, a miracle in the sky, light a candle in our hearts, let it shine for all that it's worth. It's a small and simple price. If we want peace on earth, look inside. What do I think I'll see when I open my eyes Christmas morning? Is there a child in me who still believes? The secret to living is truly in the giving. Behind the hand that gives is a heart that receives. If we want peace on earth, a miracle in the sky, light a candle in our hearts, let it shine for all that it's worth. It's a small and simple price. If we want peace on earth, look inside. Beyond all our expectations, there's a miracle waiting. No more waiting. If we want peace on earth, a miracle in the sky, light a candle in our hearts, let it shine for all that it's worth. It's a small and simple price. If we want peace on earth, look inside. Look inside.
Ready? Since I find myself too tall to sit on Santa's knee, and the presents that I wish for can't fit beneath the tree, I wonder now again as Christmas time draws near, what is this special magic which keeps the season so dear? It's the expectation, I believe, that lasts as childhood ends, that hope, happiness, and laughter are waiting just around the bend. That somehow understanding and compassion will replace bitterness and hate, and we find inside each one of us a child's heart that still may wait for expectations to soar like stardust through the darkest silent night, and really believes that next year all our troubles will be out of sight.
From the Ensemble Theatre family to yours, we wish you a very, very Merry Christmas, a wonderful New Year, and the best of celebration of holidays all year long. Let's together welcome 2021 with joy, friendship, and togetherness.
Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas. us some figgy pudding. Oh, bring us some figgy pudding. Oh, bring us some figgy pudding and bring it right here. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. We won't go until we get some. So bring it right here. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. Good tidings we bring to you and your kin. We wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
And a Happy New Year. Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year.